Up to now, we have just seen one entity as part of our OData service or OData project, right? But in real time, I mean, applications, you will have like probably 10 to 15 entities and the relations between those entities. You will have a lot of complicated, OData modeling you have to do, right? So as part of the productive applications, anywhere from the complexity of applications, you would at least see 3 or 4 entities minimum to 10 or 15 entities max. It can go on, but typical any OData service will contain at least 6 or 7 entities. But so far we have just seen a OData service one with one entity, and we covered all CRUD operations: create, read, update, delete. Okay. So in order to explain today's topic, I take this example. This is cloned from SAP Splash. Okay. Basically what it does is, let's say whenever a salesperson logs in, we are going to show all the sales orders on the left hand side. This is SAP Fiori master detail application. On the left hand side or in the master section, we are going to show all the
Sudhir, are you showing something?
oh, sorry, I'm going to share the screen. Okay, can you see now?
Yeah.
Okay, so I took a track sales order example. I'm using Splash to demonstrate that example. Okay, whenever a salesperson logs in, we are going to show all the sales orders on the left hand side. Okay, and we are going to show items and the status on the right hand side. Let's say when the user clicks on sales order, we are going to show all the sales order items. Okay, whenever we select one particular sales order item, we are going to show information on that sales order item. Okay, so this is a typical example where we have more than one entity, and we are going to define relationship between those entities, so that if I have the sales order number, I'm going to get all my sales order items. Okay, when I have sales order item, I'm going to get the product details associated with it. Okay, so this is one simple example. So based on this, we are going to create basically 3 entities. One is sales order item, and product. The relation between sales order to sales order items is one sales order contains a number of sales order items, and one sales order item will contain one product. Okay. So in any ABAP system, there is a EPM model. Enterprise procurement model. So you have all the backend tables, you have all the function modules available for you to build your OData service, so that we don't need to do anything from the scratch. The database tables, function modules available. Based on those, we are going to build our OData service with 3 entities basically. Okay, sales order item, and sales and product. The relationship between sales order to sales order items is one sales order item will contain n number of sales order items. The relationship between sales order item to sales order, a product is one sales order item contain will one product. Okay, that is the relationship between these 3 entities. Okay, so if you look at it, there are a bunch of function modules. Okay. So if you go here, so if you go to this package, you will see all the so here you will have all your function modules. There are lots of function modules, but we are going to, I mean, for this application, simply we are going to get the list of sales orders, right? So there is a BAPI underscore EPM underscore SO underscore get list. Okay. This is the function module that we are going to use initially to get all the sales orders. Okay. Um, so I'm requesting 50 sales orders. Okay. So I got, I mean, 50 sales orders. Apart from giving me sales orders, it also gives me sales order item details too. So this is a function module where when you request number of sales orders, it is going to give you, apart from the sales orders, it is going to give you the corresponding sales order items too. Okay. So this is the function module. So this is the function module. Okay. And when you send the maximum number of sales orders you request, it is going to give you those many sales orders, and it is going to give you I mean the corresponding sales order items. Okay. When you look at the application, we need sales order, sales orders, we need sales order items. Whenever we click on the corresponding sales order, we need sales order items associated with the sales order. Whenever we choose one sales order item, we I mean, we show the product details associated with that sales order item. Okay. Once we are done with, I mean, OData modeling and SAP NetWeaver Gateway, we are going to move to SAP UI5, and basically we are going to build these applications as I have shown you. First, we are going to build the bank application where we are going to cover all the CRUD methods, create, update, read, delete of entities, and we will cover the SAP Fiori-like application where we are going to display sales orders on the left-hand side, sales order items on the right-hand side. Whenever we choose particular sales order, we are going to display the sales order items, and we are going to display the product information once we select the sales order item. Okay. Um, Before I start do OData project, any questions so far?
No.
Okay.
No.
So, I mean, let's say if you don't find, there is a data generator program for this enterprise procurement model. I think SCPMDG. Let's say if you don't find data for your function modules, you can come here and just put how many number of, let's say, I need 100 purchase orders and 100 sales orders. Okay. So I'm going to just generate data for my enterprise procurement model. This is all test data. Um, the reason that I picked up this one is we don't need to create all the database tables. We don't need to create all the function modules, which we can use and build the OData service in an efficient way. Okay.
What was the transaction code? SEPM underscore PG, right?
DJ, DG. You can find a lot of information in web regarding this model.
Mhm.
Okay, you can just generate test data. So, right, if I request, since I generated 100 sales orders, let's see how many sales orders it gives me. Hundred sales orders and 601 sales order items. Okay, let me go ahead and start OData modeling. First, I'm
So
going to, yeah, go ahead.
other than this EPM model, are there any other models also?
I think there might be some purchasing things, but I'm not sure. You can pick anything. Let's say if you are working on, if you have a use case from your work scenario, you could just pick up. The reason that I picked up this one is we don't need to maintain test data. We don't need to
Hmm.
write lot of code. That is the reason that I picked up this one. I'm not sure whether there are any other
Okay.
models which provide this type, but if you look at this data generator program, right?
Mhm.
If you look at this, there are purchase orders too, right?
Right.
So there might be a model out there where database tables and function modules available for the purchase orders too.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Or you have flight data available. If you go to a flight, you'll see all the details where it has all the function modules to retrieve the flight information too. You have that model too. Okay.
Hmm. Okay.
So I'm going to create a project. Okay. I'm going to call EPM application. Okay. I'm going to say OData service for fax sales orders app. Okay. I'm going to choose my package. Okay. I have created this OData project. So if I look at the function module, there is a corresponding structure associated with sales order header data. If I go here, right, when it gives the sales order header data, I have a structure associated with it. So instead of creating my own structure, I'm simply going to use this structure. Okay. So I'm going to do the same thing, DDAC structure, and I'm going to use this structure from the function module, and I'm going to say sales order. Okay, and I'm going to choose sales order ID as a key. Okay, um, I have created a sales order entity. Um, from the structure BAPI underscore EPM underscore SO underscore header. As part of this entity, the key is sales order ID is the key. Okay, so I'm going to create the entity set. So entity set is nothing but a collection of entities. Okay, so I'm going to call this entity set as sales orders, since sales orders is going to be plural of sales order entity type. Okay, so you can choose the sales order entity here. Okay. Okay, I have created one entity. For that entity, I have used a structure provided by SAP, and I have created an entity set based on the entity type that I have created. Okay, so let me generate the runtime artifacts. You know all these steps, but I'm just reiterating. Okay, so it is, these are the runtime artifacts. As part of the runtime artifacts, we are going to get the model provider class extension, data provider class extension, and technical model name and technical service name. Okay. We are not doing anything special. As we have already done in the case of bank, that's what we are doing. Okay.
Yep.
Uh, let me go to data provider class extension and implement the method get sales order entity set. Okay. So this is the method which will be called when you request for sales orders entity set. Okay, so I'm going to redefine this method. And okay, um, so here you are going to return et underscore entity set, which is of type table, and the line type is BAPI underscore EPM underscore SO header. This is the same structure we used to create the entity. So let me create the local data definitions. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to call this function module. Okay. So I'm going to mention maximum rows is I'm requesting for 100 sales orders. Okay. And as for header data LT, I'm going to define a table, internal table. Okay. And I'm not going to receive the sales order item and all, because even if I receive sales order items, I have no way to send it to the user, because in the sales orders get entity set method, you are going to send only one entity set, which is of type sales orders entity set. So, but this function module will give you both sales orders and the sales order item data too. Okay. I mean, I'm mentioning this point. I mean, just observe carefully so that, I mean, the next topic that we are going to discuss makes sense. Okay. So this function module BAPI underscore EPM underscore SO get list, when you request for the number of sales orders, it is going to give you the sales order data and the sales order item data. Okay. But we cannot use sales order item data because we can only send only one entity set back to the user, that is sales orders entity set. Okay. Even when we receive the sales order item from this function module, we cannot make use of it. So I'm going to ignore that and say, okay. So since I have this data, I'm going to loop at it. I'm going to define a structure. I can use ls entity too, so um, let me just use ls entity. So okay, append ls entity to et underscore entity set. We are not doing anything, I mean, new. We are just calling the function module, and we receive the internal table, and we loop through this internal table and pass all those entities that we received from the function module to the user. Okay. So let me execute it. Okay, I have created OData service, and I have created an entity set. I have generated the runtime artifacts, and I have implemented or redefined sales orders underscore get entity set method. So let me go ahead and register this service. Okay. let me go ahead and register this service in the activate and maintain services so that I can call this service, sales orders. Okay. Now let me add the service here. The system alias I'm going to use is, whether you can use local, all the things, you can use anything, because we are doing everything. We are creating the services in the same system, and we are going to register those services in the same system because we are following embedded deployment option. Okay, so both front end and back end components exist in the same system. Okay, so this is my service. Okay, and I'm going to register this service. Okay, so it will create a SICF node, as we know, which will be accessible outside of SAP. Okay, to filter it, Z. So this is my service. Okay, EPM service. I'm going to use the gateway client. Okay, I can execute it. When I execute the service, I will see all the entities and entity set exist in that OData service. There is only sales orders, so let me go ahead and request for the sales orders. I'm going to add format equal to JSON. Okay. So there is an error saying that type conflict when calling a function module. Let's see. Probably the max rows, it is not accepting it. So let's go to ST22 and see what kind of error is it. Okay. So it says, so the max rows, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to keep a variable which is of this type. Let's see, it is int4. Instead of passing directly 100 to it, let's say Okay, let me go ahead and execute it again. So it gives me several sales orders here. I wanted to introduce one more thing called SAP statistics. Okay, this is the query parameters that you can add to the URL, where it will give you all the details about how much time it will take. Takes equal to true. So if you add it to the URL, normally it should give, okay, SAP statistics equal to true. In the response header, it will give you all the details about how much time it will took for the server to process your request. Okay. Uh, Somehow it is not working in the system. I need to check why, but I mean, whenever you add this parameter, it will give you all the details about, I mean, how much time it will take at the gateway hub system, how much time it will took in the backend, I mean, your actual application logic and all. I will check why it is not working, but don't worry about it. We can see even in the browser how much time it is taking. Okay. So let's say if you go to the any browser, you can if you are using Chrome, just from options, go to more tools, and you can go to developer tools. Okay. Or from any browser, if you click on F12, you can see, okay, you can see um, developer tools. In the developer tools, there are lots of tabs. Whenever we are working on the web applications, whenever we are working on SAP UI5 applications, we are going to use these developer tools to debug the code, to check the performance, to check the error logs and all. We are going to use these developer tools. Whenever we are working on UI5 applications, I will show you what all these tabs means. But for now, just look at this network tab. Okay, so if you look at this sales order, if you look at the timing, it will tell you how many seconds it took. Okay, it took 1.56 seconds. Okay, the total request, I mean, in order to process the request, it took 1.56 seconds. Okay, so let me keep doing it. So you will get, so anywhere, I mean, um, if you execute the same thing, probably you are going to get, you can take the median of, I mean, let's say execute the same request 4 or 5 times, you take the median of all those things. Okay, so probably it is taking around 1.5, 1.9 to 1.5. So let's execute for a few more times and take a median of, um, so it is taking around like 1.56 to 2 seconds. Okay, did you follow, I mean, what I have shown you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, hey Shibu, can you follow? Okay, that's good. Okay, so we are roughly taking anywhere between 1.56 to 2. So the median will be around like, I mean, 1.79, something like this. Okay. So today I want to talk about how to do OData modeling. Okay. I mean, lots of times what happens is you will have function modules or class methods which are already written, right? It makes more sense to use those function modules or class methods. Okay, so when we are talking about the OData modeling, there are two types of modelings that we do. One is the inside out and the other one is outside in. So let's see what those OData modeling means, and which model will give us better results in terms of performance. Okay. The reason that I'm talking about, even a few milliseconds or even 1 seconds made difference in these applications is because we are transferring this data to the mobiles. Since we write SAP UI5 or Fiori applications, which are going to be used in mobiles, tablets, desktop. So it is very competitive. You need to give optimized performance. So every millisecond or every second counts. Okay. So our primary goal is to send the data to the application faster, to send the data over the network faster. So if there is a way to reduce number of milliseconds, then we should go for that method. Okay, so let's see what are different models and what we have done. Okay, so what we have, let's say, one is the inside out modeling. What this means is, let's say if we have already a business object or business component available, instead of writing a logic again, what we do is we are going to create service out of the business component. Okay, normally the business components are going to be your function, remote function calls, or business object relations in CRM. So what we have done today is we have followed this inside out modeling. Since there is a function module, we have just used that function module um, to get us the data. That is what we have done. So what is outside-in modeling? In the outside-in modeling, we will look at our, the service first. We will look at our application first, so that we create the sales order. We create the OData service. After that, we are going to think about whether there is any business component which can fulfill our needs. Okay. There is a function module existed to give us the sales order data. But if we use it, what are the downsides? The upside is going to be you don't need to write code to implement this service. There is already a function module, so you can just use that function module out of the box. But what are the negatives? What are the cons of using this function module? Let us see it. Okay. So basically, inside out modeling is you are having a business component and you are going to model your service based on the business component. In the outside in modeling, you are going to create the service and you look at whether there are any existing business components available for you to use. If they are not optimized to serve this service, you are not going to use those business components. Only if it is optimized, then only you are going to use that function module or the business component. Okay. Any questions?
No.
Okay. Um, so since we followed inside out modeling today, there is a function module, BAPI underscore APM underscore SO underscore get list, which will give us sales order data, sales order header data, sales order item data, and the product data. In the outside in, we looked at this function module, but when we are requesting for the sales order header data, this function module is doing extra logic to give us sales order item data and the product data, which we don't want. Okay. Since it is doing all this extra logic, it is going to take extra time to process our request. So instead of using this function module, we are going to write a piece of code which will only give us sales order header data instead of the sales order item data and the product data. Okay, so let's see the performance statistics when we use the function module versus when we write a piece of code which just does our job. Okay. SAP performance statistics, as I have told you earlier, when you use this query option SAP-statistics equal to true, it is going to give you um, uh, these different components. One is gateway total. It is the total processing time for the OData request. The second is gateway hub. This is the processing time in the SAP NetWeaver Gateway Hub system. Okay, and there is a gateway RFC overhead. If you are using hub system, there is an RFC connection involved between your hub system and your backend system. So how much time it took for the RFC connection to pass the data from hub system to backend and from backend to hub system. So that component, so these are the components. One is the gateway total. So when we add this SAP hyphen statistics equal to true in the URL, we are going to receive a HTTP response header with these components. This is the total time. This is the total time to process OData request. Okay. And the other one is Gateway Hub. The amount of time it took for processing in Gateway Hub system. So this component is when we are using hub deployment option, there is some time to process this request in the hub system. So that is the amount, that is this component um, involves what is the amount of time it took in the hub system. The other one is gateway RFC overhead. In the hub system, if you are following the central hub deployment, there is an RFC connection between your hub system and backend system. So this is the amount of time it took for the um, this is RFC and network overhead for communication between hub system and the backend system. Okay, and okay. This is backend enablement. This is the processing time in SAP NetWeaver Gateway Framework in the backend system. Okay, and you have the final component which is important, ZW app. This is actually processing time for your application logic. So let's say if there is any delay, let's say if normally a request took 2 seconds, let's say if a request took 10 seconds, basically you can see where it is taking a lot of data, where it is taking extra time so that you can pinpoint and see where the problem is. Okay. The gateway total is going to be gateway hub plus RFC overhead plus backend enablement plus your application logic. Okay. Let's say if it is taking a lot of time in the hub system, you can narrow down the problem and you can go to hub system and track down what the problem is. Let's say if it is taking extra time in RFC overhead, there you can concentrate and see what the problem is. If it is in the BWBE, you can see what the problem is in the NetWeaver gateway framework in the backend enablement or backend system and figure out the problem. If it is taking a lot of time in the application logics, probably you are going to optimize your logic so that the response will be quicker and fast. Okay. So today we followed inside out model. Okay, so let's just comment out that code and do outside in modeling. Okay, what I'm going to do is, I mean, if you look at the function module, okay, what it is doing is it is processing header data here. Could you be able to see code clearly?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So what it is doing is here it is trying to get the um, header data, right? After that, it is trying to process the item data too. What we are going to do is we are going to just pick the logic here, I mean just necessary for, I'm going
Header.
to, hello? Okay. I'm going to pick the logic where it is just processing the header data and see if the performance improves or something like that. Okay. Let me collect all the code. So I'm just copying some of the logic from the function module. I'm not going to copy any code regarding sales order item data. I'm just going to pick the code where it is processing header data and see if it makes any difference. Okay. So um, I'm going to copy the local data definitions. Okay. And I'm going to copy all the data which is processing header data. Okay. ls epm svo header data type ifpm. Okay. If I go to this tt node, ifpm ts node data. Okay. So, okay, loop it and loop. I'm going to catch the exception if there is any, and I'm going to end try. Okay. So I'm going to say max rows equal to 100. I'm going to get rid of this and even this one. I'm just going to say max rows equal to 100 and even product range. Okay, let me copy this. Okay, come here. I'll say outside in. Okay. And I'm going to call this as inside out. Okay. I'm going to comment this code where we are calling function module. I'm going to check the syntax of type. We don't need this. Okay. Okay. Going to call ls Okay, so I'm moving bonding to ls entity append ls entity to
ET.
et entity set. Okay. I mean,
Actually,
yeah,
here
yeah, go ahead.
instead of even declaring that LT EPM SO header data, you could have directly taken the output
Yeah,
of that
you can
into
directly
ET.
put it in the ls entity too because it is the same type.
No, the output of that method query by header, the
Uh-huh.
importing parameter, you could directly give it as ET entity set, right?
Yeah, just for, I mean, most of the times what will happen is, I mean,
Will be different.
you are going to put the entity, right? Let's say your entity is not going to be straightforward. I mean, probably you are going to fetch information from two or three different resources or two
Right,
or
right.
three different
So
tables and put it in entity. Yeah, in this case, yes.
right.
Yeah. Um, so what we, I mean, did you guys get what we have done, right? Instead of in the function module, it is trying to get the sales order header data and the sales order item data too. So what we are trying to do is instead of doing, I mean, both instead of processing sales order header and sales order item data, we just took the code which process the sales order header data and put it in the sales orders underscore get entity set method, so that we are trying to optimize the performance. We'll see how much it will be optimized, but that is what we are trying to do. Even if you don't understand this logic, don't worry too much about it because I mean, in your case, what you need to consider take into consideration is even if you have a function module, let's say if it is doing lot of extra things apart from whatever you are requesting, basically you are just going to write logic which fulfill your request at that point of time. Okay, that is what the crux of the thing. Any questions, guys?
No.
Okay, let me activate it and try if it gives me the. Okay, let me try to execute it. So I get the data, sales orders. So we are getting the same information, but this time we are not doing sales orders item processing. We are just doing the sales
Header.
orders. Okay, let's see how much it will give you. Okay, if you see this time it is, I mean, instead of 1.7 seconds, it is 975.84 milliseconds, which is less than 1 second. So let's just execute it for a few more times so that we can take median of, okay? Okay, it is now 1.6. It is 2.3. Normally it should be, I mean, very less, I mean, the ones that we have seen first. So it is around this one, 860 milliseconds, okay? Yeah, based on internet and all, I mean, it will change, but basically it should be fast. 1.1 second, 17 seconds, 1.83. So 1.3. Okay, let's do one more thing. So it is 1.5 seconds now. So it is 1.39. So if you see the time difference, right? So anywhere it starts from less than 1 seconds to 1.2, 1.3, 968 milliseconds. So it gives us, let me take out this code. Anyhow, I mean, the least it has given us is like 861 seconds to 1.3 or something like that. So if you take the median of it, I mean, probably it comes around 1.15 or something like that. So basically you are, I mean, reducing around 0.74 seconds. Probably when we, I mean, compare it, I mean, just 1 second, it does not make much sense to us. But let's say if you are on mobile and if, I mean, that wheel spins for 2 or 3 seconds, probably you will just put off with that, right? So, I mean, whenever we are doing these applications in mobile and all, every second counts. So, you should strike a balance between when to write, I mean, when to write the logic and when to reuse the function modules, okay? So clearly, if you are, if you see here, if you see in the case of sales orders, it is doing all that extra process. It is sending you, it is doing all that extra process to process another 600 rows. Okay, when you are requesting for 100 sales order rows, it is processing another 600 rows of sales order items, which you cannot accommodate at that point of time because this is a um, stateless application. Even though you process sales order items, but you cannot send it back to the user because he is only requesting for the sales order item at that time. If you look at the application, so initially I'm just going to load this. Whenever user clicks on, then only we are going to get the sales order items. Even if you send it to the client has nowhere to, I mean, keep that information. If it is WebDin Pro ABAP or any of the server-side technology, when you run the thing, it can be in the user session so that whenever you need items, you don't need to go to the server again. Probably you are just going to look at the user session and get the data and put it in the ALV or something like that. So that is the difference. So, so I mean, generally what is advisable is, I mean, on the first day you guys have asked, I mean, at your client place, probably you have created OData services from the function modules, right? But most of the
Yes.
times the OData service modeling starts from UI application. Based on the UI needs, you are going to come up with, I mean, how many entity sets and all. So basically your business component or RFC is not going to enforce how the UI should look like. The UI is going to enforce how your backend business logic should look like. Okay? Do you see any difference? I mean, in the first class, I think you asked, we have created OData services from the RFCs.
Right. Yes. No, but even even here also, I mean, say suppose you only wanted the sales orders. I mean, we could have written an RFC,
Mm-hmm.
which will get just the sales orders also.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Let's say um, it has this sales orders underscore get entity set method, right? You can just
Right.
write, I
Right.
mean, until or unless you are going to use that function module in future,
Hmm.
there is no benefit of writing a function module again, right? You can just put that logic here.
Right. Right. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
So what generally is advised is, let's say if there is a function module which fits your needs, then go for it. I mean, you don't need to write all this coding extra. But let's say if the function module just, I mean, covers 50% of your needs, then you should not use that function module and should go for, I mean, optimized code for your, I mean, OData request. Okay, so I mean, whenever you are writing these web applications which will run on mobile, tablet, and desktop, you got to take, I mean, lot of care into how fast you can serve the user request. That is, I mean, inside it is just all above code, whether you are writing a function module or a class method or inside the OData data provider class extension methods. Inside it is all above, but how fast you are going to serve the request coming from user is your top priority. So these are the two models. I mean, whenever you are working on, I mean, lots of times there might be resistance saying that, hey, I mean, why don't you use the function modules already existed? I mean, even if you explain all this, probably there will be resistance. That's why you got to take these, I mean, performance statistics and show them. Okay, this is the reason why we are not going with the existing function modules. It might not fit as our needs 100% or 90%. Okay. Any questions, guys?
Nope.
No.
Um,